Welcome to Sunday, April 27th, 2025. We are here today to actually continue our discussion, learning who we are and how we are to proceed in this earth in accordance with the desires of our Creator. As we always do, I would like to start with questions. However, I want to clarify something before I do that. And what I want to clarify is this. When we talk about being God, I want us to understand simply that, number one, you cannot be God if you maintain a European mindset, because the European mindset is antithetical to what we are, to who we are rather, and what our goals are in terms of bringing order and peace to humanity. The second thing is this. I ask, and I will do the same, and you correct me if I do differently. I ask us to remove ourselves from talking about who we are not and deal with who we are. Does that make sense? Hello?
Yes.
Would you elaborate on that? I'm sorry.
Elaborate on.
Good morning, family.
Well,
Yes, sir.
I'm simply saying you're God, right?
Yes.
Rather than focusing on who's not God, deal with you being God, because it's simple. The simplicity of it is this. As long as you walk around with a European mindset, you will not be God, a God, it God, whatever. You won't be that. You would not be an adherent to the mindset of a Kabbalah. And I use a Kabbalah in Africa interchangeably, which probably may be somewhat confusing, but with both of them, I'm speaking primarily of the spiritual nature as opposed to the geographical location or the land mass itself. And I will make the distinction if I'm talking about the land mass. Now, when I say concern yourself with who you are, we don't even know what God does. So we don't know what is expected of us. And I mentioned yesterday that we need to look at what God did. And when I look at what God has done, God has created. And that's it. Elohim creates. And the first place that you begin to create is within you. Once you embrace who you are, then you are creating space in you to understand the spiritual nature of who you are and what your purpose in the earth is. And you do that, you create that space by purging yourself of the European mindset, adversarial thoughts, the idea of looking at people differently than you should, meaning that elevating yourself above people, humanity. This being God is not about elevating yourself. Being God is about elevating everyone else. Does that help you, Evelyn?
It does, and I know that in that mindset, the European mindset, there is no growth. You can't grow when you're having that mindset. But I do want to say, and I can only speak for me, I don't know how God works because the God that the European gave me has disappointed me so many times, seems like. And I'm still struggling with that God because I don't know the God that I am. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
It does.
So I have doubt. I have failure. I feel failure sometimes, disappointment because things are not working the way I want them to. So yeah, I see what you're saying. And there's no growth in that. The only growth in that is it just makes me stagnant. I'm not growing. So I needed to hear this today.
So
Thank you.
you're welcome. I'm going to deal with this doubt and when we get into the eighth Psalm in a little bit. I also want to say something. When you say that you don't, when things don't work out the way you want them to, um, I don't think that we always want things to work out the way we want them to because it's not necessarily the right thing that we want. I want things to work out the way the Creator intends for them to work out, if that makes any sense to you.
Yes, it does.
Okay. Rest in knowing who you are or becoming more aware of it. And as I said a few moments ago, the thing that Elohim did is to create. And the first place that we begin to create is internally, within, well, I say internally, our mindset is where we begin to create. We begin to purge ourselves of those things that are adversarial to the mindset of our Creator. And when we purge ourselves of those things, then we begin to have that spiritual mindset of vocabulary as opposed to the mindset of the European. Does that make sense? Evelyn?
Yes, sir, it does.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Audrey, your hand up.
Yes. Can you redefine for us what the European mindset means?
Yes, I will.
Because I think it can be a little confusing.
And that's exactly the reason I brought it up this morning. The European mindset, in order for us to understand, for me anyway, to understand the European mindset, I don't look at what happened 400 years ago or 200 years ago. I go back to the beginning and look at that mindset and try to understand why things are the way they are today. And one of the things that pushed me to do that is because we as a people are more forgiving, and I want to know why. And Europeans are not, and I want to know why. So when I went back to look at beginnings for the European, I saw the structured self-destruction that was taking place with the European. And when the Africans went into Europe to bring them to a place of civilization, what they met was people who were fighting each other, people who were killing each other, people who were extremely violent and disrespectful to females and took anything they want by any means necessary. And what I see today is the same thing. That European mindset today does the same thing. It takes what it wants without regard to how much destruction it causes to others or how much destruction it causes to the earth. If the European does not get what it wants, and I'm not talking about individuals, I'm talking about a collective mindset. If that collective mindset does not get what it wants, it will destroy everything that around what they want, meaning that if the European wants your minerals and they can't get them, they will bomb you. In order to keep you docile and submissive, Japan is an example of that, what happens with that mindset. Nagasaki and Hiroshima were bombed, even though the Emperor of Japan had sent a letter to Roosevelt stating that Japan was surrendering. So I'm talking about a mindset that has put us right now today in a space where it desires to create fear in everyone so that it can continue to dominate the earth and to minimize righteousness, to minimize the influence of the African mindset or the mindset of a Kabbalah. So that's, in a nutshell, pretty much what I'm talking about when I talk about the European mindset. Does that make sense, Audrey?
Yeah, I just wanted it to be clear that we're not talking about individuals,
No,
more a generalization of a mindset that is selfish, violent, misogynistic, that kind of thing.
that's
But I have
exactly.
another question too. Yesterday you were talking about Yahweh,
Mhm.
and I wanted you to equate that to Ptah and the waters of Nun,
Okay, gotcha.
so that I just can be clear of what's what.
Okay, would you hold that question for a moment, because I'm going to deal with Yahweh when I get to eighth song.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Ron?
Well, one was just an observation. One thing you said when you talked about a Kabbalah in Africa reminded me when we look at the scriptures, sometimes it would call Israel Jacob. And when you look at that, you understand from a spiritual perspective, it's talking to that aspect of his life, and that, whether or not one is being addressed as spiritual and the other one as the human. So I just thought about that when you said that they are one and the same, but they also speak of a transformation uh, that if not a historical thing, but more of a spiritual thing. I just thought that was interesting when you said that.
Yeah, okay.
Uh,
Thank
the other thing that's real important to me is Elohim creates, but we always create. We are creators, and when we don't intend to, we're creating. So when you talk about creating, be more specific, if you would, please, and let me see that, because we look at our lives and you think about it. A lot of it is your feelings, your views, your depressions, your lack of confidence, we're constantly creating, and we are don't recognize the energy of that and the power of it. So when you talk about we are creators, how do we think differently as creator as we do then as being an individual in this life as humans, I guess.
Well, and I'm going to talk about that also in the eighth song, the mortal man, right? The human. Um, the simplicity of it is this: Elohim creates for the benefit of humanity. If we are created with a European mindset, it's just the opposite of that. The systems that have been created from the mindset of the European, going back to Plato's Republic, but most of the systems in Europe are based upon. They minimize people who they call soft, and that is people who are compassionate, people who have empathy, people who they say are artists, or people who see the world differently. You have to be stoic and cold to be a efficient government official. And you get all that from Plato's Republic. And we see that today. It's not about compassion. Joe Biden did not have compassion. Bill Clinton did not have compassion. Obama did not have compassion because of the works that they did. And I'm saying, and what I'm saying is that the mindset of Elohim would not have eliminated, so, what's his name, in Libya, Gaddafi, would not have eliminated Gaddafi simply because he was bringing people together to establish their own currency and to establish ownership of what belongs to them. Obama allowed that to happen. And we know the rest when we talk about Gaza and Biden. So, and the reason I use those quote unquote Democrat folks is because it's obvious what the Republicans are doing. And I try to stay away from parties and deal with mindsets. Now, mortal man has a mind, a mind that connects it to this physical material world. And the mind that connects you to this physical material world will lead you to do anything. However, the mindset of Elohim is spiritual. And it does not only connect you to this physical world, it shows you how to function in this world in a beneficial way to the earth as well as humanity. Yet, the mind that we process with has been trained for hundreds, if not thousands of years to think like Europeans. And when I say Europeans, I'm talking about the European mindset. And when we look at mortal men who have been under the domination of that mindset, we see a struggle to maintain your sense of civility, your sense of righteousness, your sense of loving kindness. Because of that mindset, there were times when we have gotten angry to the point where we wanted to eliminate those who enslaved us. And that in itself is a European mindset. Anything that is antithetical to the mindset of a Kabbalah is the mindset of a European mindset. And it's funny how that works, because the greatest battle in this earth is between the European mindset and the mindset of a Kabbalah. And that is represented by the physical, what we see physically. And that is every other group of people is pretty much overlooked in terms of allowing them to be prosperous. And I'm not just talking about financially, and to feel safe, except the African. And that's indicative of that battle between those mindsets.
And the Kelbulan mindset is one of adhering to the principles of Maya.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, no?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh, okay. Yes. that when we are in tune and not tune, in rhythm with the universe, and the mindset of Mayat, or the mindset that adheres to Mayat, yes, it is the Kabbalonian mindset. It is spiritual, and when we adhere to that, then we are in constant rhythm with the universe. Now, we are in a space where we desire to be in rhythm with the universe constantly and have that mindset of Mayat. I listened at what Evelyn said, and what Evelyn said is representative of a lot of us, all of us, in that we have these interludes with religion as well as the emotional aspects of that European mindset. And when I say emotional aspects of it, we want to get even with folks. And also, I guess I may as well go ahead and start in the eighth Psalm. And the reason I say that is because the eighth Psalm also talks about vengeance. It also talks about the mortal man. It also talks about Yahweh. And you see that those are primarily the three things that we're centered around right now. Am I right with you guys, Ron, Audrey, Evelyn? Huh?
Yes, you're right.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. With you on your phone or however you do it, go to eighth Psalm if you have access. I'm primarily concerned about I think it's the first 5 verses. However, there are things that I will touch in the 6th verse especially. This psalm is, and I'm reading from the King James Version. Okay. To the chief musician upon Gittith, a psalm of David. O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is thy name in the earth, who has set thy glory above the heavens. This is talking about, well, actually, it is addressing Yahweh, because with the first Lord, when you say, oh Lord, that should have been Jehovah. And Jehovah, Yahweh are the same. Now, this is something that I'll get to that. Then it says, our Lord. Well, Lord here is Adonai, which means one who is strong, one who is the ruler, one who's the master. So it is saying, O Jehovah, our ruler or our strength. Do you see the difference there? Now, Audrey asked the question about Jehovah in regards to the comparison to the Kemetic understandings of creation itself. Am I right, Audrey?
Yes.
Okay. When we look at Yahweh from the scriptures, what we will see in Kemetic spirituality is Ra, because Ra brought into existence Ptah. And when we look at Ptah, we see Elohim. And when we look below, when we pass Ptah, what do we see? We see Isis, Osiris, etc. So we see what we see existing or being brought into existence is the energy of femininity and masculinity. And we see that the offspring or the offshoot of that femininity and masculinity is Osiris. And that is deliverance, or that is the source that guides us to life itself. And Osiris became Jesus in the Bible in terms of that comparison that you were asking about. Does that help you?
I'm a little bit confused because I thought it was Ptah that brought Ra into existence.
No, Ptah was the one who did the creating,
Right.
and Ra is the one who how can I put this? Ra did the Ra did the blueprint for everything that happened. And Ra is the entity that brought Ptah into existence, according to the Kemetic creation. George Robert Clark.
Speaking, go ahead.
Am I correct with when I say that Ra, or am I mixed up? Because I know you live and breathe this stuff.
No, but when we look at
I guess my question, George, is Ra is the one who created Ptah. Is that the procession?
that is the procession, because when we talk about Nun, and we talk about the waters of Nun, we're talking about that aspect of Ra, which is the feminine energy, and then we move into that energy that was at rest in the kinetic energy, which energy in motion, which we have Ptah. So that would be correct, in my opinion.
Thank you. Audrey? I can't hear you. Still muted.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So to clarify it again, Ra and Yahweh are Ptah and Elohim. And when George mentioned the waters of Nun, they that is and the spirit covered the deep. That is talking about the waters that's mentioned in Genesis. And the Genesis creation is patterned after the creation story of the Cushites. Ron.
I'm just thinking. Go ahead. I'm good.
Okay. So, excuse me. So, what I'm saying in this song is that the way we were taught, when I think about it now, it is extremely confusing to me because we saw Yahweh, we saw Jehovah, the Lord, all of them as the same, when it's not. When it says Adonai means ruler or to be strong, Adonai is a trait of Yahweh that is in us. The Yahweh, the unpronounceable name is actually YH, WH or VH, Yahweh, VH. Yahweh is the principal creator that we are talking about. It is the light above everything. It is the beginning of everything because Jehovah means self-existing one. So if you are self-existing, that means that you were not created. And when the writer of this psalm says, "Oh Jehovah, our master, how majestic is your name," what he's saying is, how majestic is your character. He's talking about the majesty of its character in all of the earth. And he's talking about that the majesty, the glory, which is also splendor of majesty, is set above the heavens. What is he saying? The heavens is not talking about the heaven that we were taught. This word speaks to loftiness. It talks about being lofty. What he's saying is that your majesty, your excellence is above everything. Your name, your character is above everything in all of the earth. Does that make sense? Or yes or no will help.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
I
Thank
have a question. I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Just so I have clarity. Yahweh, Jehovah, and Ein Sof are all the same, but different names?
No, no, ma'am.
Okay. All right.
Yahweh, Ein Sof, the light above all lights, the creator of everything that is, the one who creates but was never created. All of those are the same.
Did I misunderstand when you said Yahweh and Jehovah are the light of all lights? The same?
No, you did not misunderstand me.
Okay.
Jehovah means self-existent.
Okay.
There's only one entity that's self-existent. There's
Yes,
only
I know.
one entity that creates but was never created. And whether you say Yahweh, the light above all lights, to self-creating one, regardless of how you phrase it and why is it phrased that way, because we are talking about the creator. However, we can't label that creator with a name because we don't know what the name is.
Okay.
So what we do is speak about it in a spiritual manner that helps us to see that that everything that exists came from one who has always existed without having to be brought into existence. Does that make sense?
Yes. And let me see if I've got this right. So when we're using the name Jehovah, we're saying we are referring to the one who we don't know really his name.
We don't know the proper a name like our
The-
proper name. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Now,
Thank you.
thank you. Before I continue, let me say this
Mhm.
also. You don't have to um, try to learn and remember this for future regurgitation of it. The main thing about it is that does it resonate with you? That's the main thing. And I'm not just talking to you, Vermeil, I'm talking about all of us.
No, I'm glad you said that because yesterday a lot of what you said was really stirring in me, but I kept feeling like, but I don't always understand this. But
And
you're saying today you don't have what you're saying makes resonates with me. I feel it. I sense it. But there's times when I'm like, wow, am I getting it confused? Do these names I feel like I needed a better understanding.
okay. Um, the confusion comes from religion because everything had a proper name that should not have. We were taught that Jehovah is a proper name, and it isn't. It isn't. It speaks of the entity that exists without being brought into existence. Now, that is not like I say Audrey. That's Audrey's name. That is Audrey's name is not Audrey's character.
Sure.
Our Audrey's name does not create a character for Audrey. So who creates that character for Audrey? She does.
You do.
So Audrey, the real Audrey, the spiritual Audrey is not named Audrey. I don't know what her name is, but Audrey identifies the physical body. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
And can I ask a question here? Is that why, like, when AH was added to names, like when Sarah's name
Uh-huh.
and
That,
Rebecca, that spoke to their growth
and see, that's the
spiritually?
problem. That is the crux of the problem.
Okay.
Um, Easier. Abram meant father.
Okay.
And when He was added to the name Abraham, it means father of nations, spiritual father. It never should have been Abraham, the proper name. It should have
Okay.
been the mortal man is the father of the mortal children. And when he realizes who he is, then he becomes the father of the spiritual father to bring others to a place of spirituality. The proper names is what's confusing. Moses means to draw out. Is not a proper name. It's talking about being in your place of solitude where you desire for all the things that is antithetical to who the creator is to be drawn out of you. Does that make sense?
It gives so much more clarity for me. Yes, that
Oh,
does.
thank you.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome. George, GC, George, Robert Clark, you.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good.
Oh, I saw you turn your camera on,
Yeah,
and when you do that, you were about to say something. That's why I called you.
no, I just, wanted to say again, I had a chance to, and I don't want to deviate from where we are in terms of the conversation, but I think that when yesterday I had a chance to see the podcast, and I think Ron spoke, in reference to God's creations, and on the seventh day he rested. It's just something where I'm feeling in my spirit today in terms of us being able to rest and recover as we begin to appreciate where we are today and what's coming from, this Psalm number 8. So again, I didn't really have anything, but I think just to rest and recover from what's being said is important to me right now. I'm done.
Thank you. It's imperative that we understand Sabbat as we talked about it yesterday, because as was said yesterday, we are the reason that nothing has changed. And when we embrace who we are, and that is the reason I also wanted to say what I did about the purging of a mindset so that we can have the mindset that we were created to have, and to bring that mindset into this earth consciousness for the express purpose of benefiting humanity. And I believe with everything in me that we will be where we supposed to be in terms of having embraced the reality, the totality of who we are, so that we can bring an end to the misery that humanity is experiencing right now. Does that make sense? And one other thing, there is a mindset that put us in this space with the current administration. And that mindset has to suffer so that it can see that what it is processing, what it is desiring is wrong. Does that make sense? Is that not what we're talking about?
Yeah.
And when that mindset see that it is wrong, then things change. So how is it that we bring balance into the earth? When we embrace who we are with totality. And what I mean by totality, I'm not talking about without a spark of entering of religion. I'm talking about to the extent that we recognize the thoughts that we have that needs to be purged. When we get that and know that we can do this, and that is purge ourselves. When we know that, the suffering is going to increase to the extent that that mindset is tired of being tired and looking for a better way. And that better way is already present, but they have not opened their minds, they have not opened their hearts to embrace it. When we embrace it, then not only will things get worse to push people into a corner to embrace it, they will become hungry for something different. And the something different is to be governed by a mindset that cares about humanity. And what I'm saying about this is there are countries on this earth who people reach the age of retirement and they receive care from the government, from the governing bodies in that country. They don't have to worry about Medicare, Social Security, 20% deductible, those kinds of things. They are provided for. And I'm saying that when we see the system in place that comes from a Cabelonian mindset, we begin to see the same thing with the elderly, with people regardless of who they are. And if you notice, I do my best to say each group of people rather than each race of people, because I am purging myself off that social construct of race. And the sooner we do that, the better off we'll be. Because if we keep giving life to it by using it, by seeing people based on race as opposed to a group of people, then we are giving life to this social mindset of race that has become the rallying force for everything that's antithetical to our Creator. Does that make sense? Hello.
Yes. Yes.
Any
Most
questions?
certainly.
We have to do that. If there are no more questions about this,
I have a question.
go ahead.
You said something. I want to see if I understood you and what it. We've talked for years about Insoft, right? Because we didn't know what else to call it, and the one without a name, the nameless one.
Yeah.
And using Audrey as an example, as you just did you just call her the nameless one? Because you said there is a name that
I
you
did.
don't.
Yes, I
Yeah.
did. When I said I don't know what her name is,
Yeah.
yeah, I did.
Does she know? Or do we know? Or that part of this discovery? Or what about that a little bit more for me, if you don't mind?
Okay. when we understand what spirituality is, we begin to see that there are no spiritual names at all. Zero. There are spiritual responsibilities, but no spiritual names in terms of proper names. Are you with me so far?
Yeah.
There are none. Why? Because the self-existing one is the entity, Ein Sof, Jehovah, whatever you want to call it, brought us into brought us into existence. And it brought us into existence as it is, meaning that we are an extension of Ein Sof. Are you with me still? Being an extension of Ein Sof, we don't have a proper name either because we are one. We are one entity. We spirituality, we're spiritually one. However, when physical bodies was brought into existence, we began to name physical bodies so that we could distinguish between them. There are more people named Audrey than our Audrey, right? However, when we say Audrey, everyone who knows her has an image of what she looks like. However, when we look at the essence of her spirit, the essence of her being, that's when I'm saying I don't know what her name is, because she is an extension of the self-existent one, as is all of us goes. Just using her for an example. Does that make sense?
I thought that's what you were saying. I just want to chew on that for a minute.
Ron?
I'm good for the second, but go ahead. Keep going.
Okay, go ahead.
So, Pastor, so were you saying that the name that we have is an identifier, so to speak?
Not so to speak, that's exactly what it is. When
Okay.
you and Mary are in the same room, if they did not have a label to identify you, and someone walked in the room, you wouldn't know who they wanted to talk to, would you?
Correct.
So it is an identifier. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
But
Thank you.
isn't it also part of your journey of self-discovery that, and in that journey of the self-discovery, you do realize that your name is not Audrey, but I am.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. But this is the other part of it. Why is it necessary to have a physical body? We have talked about this. Our Creator is having a physical experience in a physical environment through us. And by virtue of doing that, when we create, meaning that we create an environment that is governed by, that is ruled by the principles of Mayat, then we will begin to experience what it is like when we say as above, so is below. Does that make sense? And do I believe that we will ever shed these physical bodies? No, I do not. I do not believe that physicality will be non-existent anymore. I don't believe that. And what will happen eventually as we move forward is that earthlings, and I'm speaking of humanity, of course, when I say earthlings, will be aware of itself and will understand that it is one with the one who brought us into existence, meaning that we will be able, you know how they describe this, Jesus on the road to Emmaus when he was sitting talking with those dudes after the crucifixion, and he just vanished. You know, he was instantly someplace else.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about. Well, we will be able to do that at will. And that's what this thing is about. This is not about a man called Jesus. This is about a message to the physical man or the mortal man in this earth. This message is that you are mortal now. However, you're a mortal man. However, you can alter that by knowing who you are. Does that make sense? When you embrace that you are spiritual, living in this house called the body, then you become immortal. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I have a question. So is it like when you go to work, like where I work, I could do my job with my eyes closed. I can process those applications, blah, 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 issue license numbers, blah, blah, blah. But I'm confident in that because I know what I'm doing. So is that the same?
That confidence that you express about your work should be the confidence that you express about yourself. And when you express that you can do this with your eyes closed, you have confidence that you can do this. What you're saying is the physical aspects of my being can do this. But the question is, are you that confident about the spiritual essence of who you really are? And I would say,
So again,
I say, no, you're not. We are not. Because if we were, then we would be bringing into existence or a change for humanity, but more than that, we would be able to move in and out of this space called this physical earth. I'll give an example. Have you heard of out of body experiences or out of body travel?
yes.
Yeah.
This is real. And when we are confident in who we are able to do that. Now, why is it that some have done that and they don't know who they are? There are aspects of the Creator that is in the earth to cause us to search to understand how this can be. When I was in the military, I experienced, well, actually, I started it in college. I experienced out of body travel. And I wondered how it happened, but then I got to the place where it didn't even matter to me. But it had nothing to do with Christianity. It had nothing to do with Ein Sof. It had nothing to do with Kemet. It was just, I did it. That causes us to desire to understand, how does this happen? And now that we are beginning to see it, it is available, yes, but everybody will never do it because it's not necessary. Does that make sense?
Yes, Pastor Jay, but that was an example of us knowing that we know that we know. That what I said previously about the things that I do at work. I know that I know my job. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not comparing. Well, yeah,
But you have to.
I'm not. Okay.
Evelyn, I'm saying that you know your job, right? Ever?
Yes.
You're saying
Uh-huh.
that?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm saying that you have to know that you know who you are.
Yes,
And
that's my point.
okay, and not be dubious about it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. When you know
Okay.
that you know, then you're confident in what you're doing. You know who you are. You know how you operate. You know, yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Thank you for correcting it. Me.
You're welcome.
You didn't have to say it so forcefully. Golly.
Well, you act like you weren't gonna get what I was saying. So
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments about this?
Pastor, I
Yes.
have a question. I don't know if it's contained to this or not. It's just been eating me up because I've been hearing y'all touch it. When we was created, God created us in His image and His likeness, and then when we disobeyed, then we became like Him, knowing good and evil. So tell me, it might not be, what we're talking about, but tell me how did this right here that fit into this?
Okay. First of all, there was no fall. There was no disobedience at all. That's Christianity. That's Islam. That's Judaism. That is not truth. From the beginning of bringing humans into the earth, the intent was for the human, this physical human, to realize that it is spiritual living in a physical body. Are you with me so far, Charles?
Right on with you.
And in order for this entity that's in this body to be as its creator is, it has to create something. And the something that it creates has nothing to do with physical earth. It has everything to do with earth consciousness. And in order for that to happen, there had to be a consciousness that was antithetical to the consciousness of the creator. And that consciousness that's antithetical to the consciousness of the creator has to be transformed into the consciousness of the creator, which means that the consciousness that is governed by Mayat has to bring consciousness to the consciousness that is antithetical, that is appears to be the enemy of Mayat. Are you with me, Charlie?
Yes, I'm with you.
Okay, so this was not a punishment for disobedience. This is an opportunity to live as our Creator is, or to have the experiences that our Creator have while we are in this physical body. So we have to purge ourselves of this creation story in terms of how the garden works. It is not like that. The other thing is this: the one who created us, the one who created the consciousness of Mayat, also created the consciousness of disobedience, the consciousness of self-destruction, the consciousness of greed, the consciousness of murder, the consciousness of being without compassion or empathy for others. It came from the same place. Do I need to say more about that? That it came from the same place?
Yes, sir.
I created the light. I created the darkness. Is that not what the scripture says?
Yes, it does. I understand.
Okay, so I created good, I created evil. That's the scriptures. So it came from the same place. But what happened is we have gotten so fixated on the physicality of our existence until we are struggling. It's hard for us to get back to the understanding that we are spirit. We can say it all day long, yet it's difficult for us to truly embrace that. It's not easy.
It's not because,
Let me finish my thought, please?
go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to lose my thought because if we, I almost lost it anyway, Charles. If we see that, I mean, if we disembody ourselves, just take our bodies away, take everybody on earth away, and ask yourself, what are we dealing with? What are we bringing into existence? What substance are we working with? We are working with consciousness. We are working with the way people think, the way they function, the way they speak. All of these things are spiritual. You cannot see them. You hear my words, but you don't see them. That's what we're working with. And when we can understand that and wrap our minds around that, because our soul is already wrapped around it. When we can wrap our minds around it, it means that this physical world changes in the way it functions because we are the dominators in the earth, and that's also in the psalm that I'm going to deal with. I'm trying to deal with anyway. So whenever you think about you being God, when you think about who you are, let this be a vision to you that there are no bodies in the earth. There's simply consciousness. And one consciousness is destructive to mortal men, and the other consciousness is an enhancement to mortal men. Does that make sense, guys? Come on. I need
Yeah.
some help.
Yes, great.
Because I want this to be clear, especially about us dealing with consciousness and not physical bodies when we are talking about changing things.
This is for Mel. Could you say one more time what you said about consciousness? One is
One is destructive and the other one is not.
okay.
It's just that simple.
Yes, I can see that.
That's what I'm saying. And the purpose of this consciousness of Mayat is to create that consciousness or transform the consciousness that is not according to Mayat, so that that consciousness functions based on the principles of Mayat, and that is when we can say truly, as above, so is below. Questions, comments? I need you to talk to me.
So, Pastor, how can we get beyond this physical world? And I mean,
That's what we.
everything that we know is touch, feel, and smell.
That's
But we
everything
can't
you know
get beyond
physically.
it.
Charles, that's everything you know physically. We are talking about spirituality. How do you know you're God? Do you think like you used to think? Is there hate in your heart? Is there a desire for vengeance in your heart? Are you a forgiving entity? This is a minor checklist that can help you see whether you have are purging yourself or not. Ron, when you
Thank you, man. I got it.
okay. You Ron and George.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ron. Go
No,
ahead.
no, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think an example is again in terms of how RV mentioned about I am, and at the same time, Evelyn talking about her knowing and saying when we look at it in the spiritual sense, I can feel the vibration. I mean, I know Audrey's name, I know Evelyn's name, but the spirit of their vibration and their energy is one of spirit and truth when we talk about what we're receiving. So, in terms of Charles, what he was saying, how can we tell not from the physical aspect of what we see or what we do as far as the physical actions, but the spiritual awareness, the spiritual intuition, I can feel very strong. So even like I said, it's not so much in terms of the physical action, but just knowing that we're vibing off the principles of truth or justice or balance or harmony, order, righteousness. And I think yesterday, Barbara mentioned reciprocity. So again, it's being able to walk in that awareness and that newness that we can physically, I mean, we're so used to being physical or we're so used to seeing the physicality, but I think we're experiencing in the spiritual realm if that resonates. I mean, and that's what I'm hearing from what's being said. I'm done.
Thank you.
Um, when you talked about good and evil, I think I saw something. I saw balance there. Uh, one is destruction, but you have to have balance there. It reminded me of Cain and Abel. It is no way to maintain either one of them. You have to find Seth, which means Cain and Abel have to die or blend in. Another example is uh, we talked about this before, uh, planting a seed, the process of germination. Uh, the germination is a bacteria part of the seed that actually becomes fertilizer if the seed meets the moisture and the warmth, but it has so many days or so much of a distance to get to the top. But if it doesn't, that germination chokes off that seed and kills it. So that seed has to find that balance uh, to feed from that which while it is underground. And when it reaches the sun, the energy gives it the energy, gives it the strength to make that bacteria something that maintains it, it feeds from it, and it grows up. So when you talked about good and evil, I just thought about that. I never thought about evil being a part of the balance that we use to maintain and to flow into who we become.
Cain and Abel. Two different consciousness, right?
Yes.
Seth. Consciousness of both. Right? That's who we are. Seth. Consciousness of both.
Yes.
And in order for us not to be Seth, we have to allow the consciousness of the principles of Maya, the capable consciousness, to be dominant in order to be beneficial to humanity. Does that mean that you're going to be totally purged of the evil? No. Because the evil came from the same place that you came from.
Yeah.
But you have to govern it. What am I saying to you? Let's just look at it from that religion. God. God can be seen as a destroyer or a enhancer. It depends on you. when we see a hurricane or tornado that kills people, right?
Mhm.
What do we say? The religion, that's God's word. So we're saying that God killed those people, are we not? When it's over and rebuilding takes place, we are saying that that is the empathy of God for his people. Now, the question is, are we going to be the one who bring the hurricane, the tornadoes that kill, or are we going to maintain order to the extent that the earth forces do not get outside of the area of enhancement for humanity? That's us. Are you going to allow what has happened to you in your life, the things that you've seen or heard have happened to other people? Are you going to allow it to dominate you? Are you going to allow it to be a stumbling block so that you cannot reach this space where you are dominant over it? Does that make sense? You have to be dominant over the evil. And again, I'm using these words in religious terms, okay? Does that make sense, Ron?
It does. It just keeps going though. Uh, the plant hit the soil and it comes out of the ground and it becomes what it supposed to be. And when it starts to grow and become a tree, uh, the the work of the sun, what goes above the ground and below the ground, the root system, all of it starts to work together to be what it's supposed to be. So what I'm hearing, at least I think I'm hearing, if I'm becoming Seth, is just a new beginning. It is your finding the way or the way to maintain your balance until you can recognize your Elohim. And that is when you truly become what you were created to be. The rest of it is just part of the journey.
That's it in a nutshell. That's what I'm saying. And all of this that we're talking about, it's funny that every bit of it is in this song. Every bit of it. I mean, look at this. Look at the second verse. Out of the mouth of babes and sucklings has thou ordained strength because of thine enemies, that you might steal the enemy and the avenger. Out of the mouth. Mouth talks about speech as well as breathing. The speech, the words of the babes and sucklings. Babe talks about a young child. It talks about a toddler, and sucklings is suckling is an infant that's being breastfed. So these are not. This is not talking about physical people. This is talking about how you think, where you are in your thoughts in relationship to who you were created to be. You're a toddler, or you're an infant, meaning that when you're an infant, you take what you are fed. When you are a toddler, you begin to make decisions. So in our thoughts, we are adults. However, when it comes to spirituality, this is one of the descriptions that the psalmist is talking about. And it's talking about out of these words of the babes and the sucklings that Yahweh has ordained, Yahweh has established, it says strength, but he's established boldness. Because of the adversarial forces that are directed toward Yahweh, the Creator. When it says the enemies, is talking about adversarial words, adversarial thoughts that have been levied against Yahweh. And it's not talking about levied against Yahweh saying, I hate Yahweh, but it's talking about the principles of Ma'at, the principles with which we were created, the principle that brings order. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah.
And then it says that that you might steal the enemy and the avenger. Is talking about to stop you. This is how you stop the adversarial forces. This is how you dominate or the adversarial forces. Whatever is the thoughts and words that are adversarial, you have ordained that we are able to stop them. You have established this. Now, the avenger speaks to one who hates, one who seeks vengeance. When we seek vengeance, when we seek revenge, we are an adversary to everything of Ma'at. All the principles, we're an adversary. You cannot embrace the reality of your spirituality, your essence, and hate or seek it or seek revenge. You cannot do that. Does that make sense? This is what it's talking about. This is describing how we are God in the earth and those impediments to being that, the essence of that. Can you see this so far? Hatred, anger, unrighteous anger, anger with a desire to hurt someone, anger with a desire to seek revenge. Those are adversarial actions and thoughts. Can we go to the third verse then? If you see this in the third, yeah, you see the second verse, right?
Yes.
Now, and I'm going to probably stop in a moment because we've said a lot today. When I consider thy heavens, the work of thy fingers, the moon and the stars which thou hast ordained. When I consider, when I perceive, when I look at what you've done, what you've established, when I look at the loftiness of what you have established, when I look at the accomplishments that you have established, when I look at these, when I look at this, when I look at the moon, which is feminine energy, and the stars, which speaking to omniscience, the knowledge, the all-knowing that you have established in us. This has been established in us. This is what makes us messianic. When we embrace this, he said, when I consider all of these things, what does he come up with? What is mortal man? Now, I want you to know something. This is a distinction. It says mortal. It is not talking about, I say that ye are gods. It's talking about you will die as mere men. This is what that should have been translated as mortal men. What is a mortal man that you are mindful of him, that you remember him, that you even give thought to him? What is he? And what is the son of a mortal man, the builder of a family is what this is talking about. A continuation of mortality that you even pay attention to it. Because that word visit is talked about to observe or pay attention to. What is this? I'm going to stop here today. And I'll do the 5th. Start back at the 5th. Any questions or comments? Questions, comments? No
I have
questions, no
one
comments?
question. I have one question. Let me say a comment. You make me see myself.
Yes.
I mean, not else.
Yeah,
This body. You make me see myself spiritual when you was talking about what you said about being angry, being selfish, being grudgy, being all those things that it's created in us.
right.
But I understand now that we have to seek the Spirit of God to understand what He's trying to tell us, because we have to overcome all these things.
You don't
Like
have
He
to,
told.
Charles, let me correct you. You're not seeking the Spirit of God. You're seeking to know who you are. That's what overcome.
Okay.
When you know that you are spirit, when you know that you're Elohim, that's when you overcome these things. So it's not, see, when we say seeking the Spirit of God, we're talking about looking for something outside of us. That is not the existence of God. Does that make sense, sir?
Okay. Okay.
So
I'm
continue.
understanding.
Okay.
It's no different when God told Cain, if you master these things, I accept what you're doing. And so we have to master all this that is in us. That's the only way we'll be able to work spiritual.
Yes.
Because that's the reason we go into the wilderness all the time with all this baggage.
Right. Now, thank you, sir. Are you finished, Charles?
Yes, sir. I'm finished.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions?
Yes, this is Angela. I have a question.
Yes.
When you was talking about the how we identify, we identify. My name is Angela. Identify in the physical, but in the spiritual, I have no name. I am. So when our ancestors, transition, and we refer to them as the identifying name, the physical name, and there are so how is that the reason why sometimes when you call out to the ancestor in the physical name as an identifier, that sometimes they don't respond, or do they move away from the no longer respond to the physical? It's kind of, do you kind of understand what I'm saying?
I do. I do.
Okay.
I do. They don't move away. If the ancestors were to move away from us because we call an ancestor by a name that we are familiar with, simply because in the physical realm, that's who they would call, that is not an offense to them at all. That simply is a cry, or that simply is a desire for help or guidance or desire. And they don't do that, move away from that. No. Does that help you, Angie?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
And I have one more.
Before
It's
you ask
not a
that
question, but well,
Angie, hold 1 second, please, before you ask the question.
okay.
The ancestors are always with us and always have been. And there is nothing that we can do to push them away from us, because they are the source of our guidance. That's why we have apparitions, or that's why people see people who transition or feel their presence. When I feel my mama's presence, it may not even be my mama. It may just very well be energy that is familiar. And I sense it as my mama because of what I'm experiencing at that moment. Does that make sense? Angela?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, babe.
Oh, I was gonna say, like if I'm just standing, I'm looking in the mirror and I'm looking at myself, seeing me, but it's more than, what I see. But when I look into the mirror and I see my physical self, I don't know if it's the illusion of it but seeing that this is just me, this is represent me, but outside of that, or the enter me, know that it's more to me than just the physical part that I see. But it's kind of difficult because that's the reflection that you see when you look in the mirror. You see this physical body, and we're trying to get to the point to where we know that we are more than just the physical body. Yeah, that can be a little challenging, but at times.
Challenges.
Yeah.
Let me say this about challenges. Every day comes with challenges. And you are the determining factor whether or not that day is going to end with victories. Victories does not necessarily mean that you conquered those challenges. Victory also is you not allowing those challenges to dominate you. So what I'm saying is what you wrestle with is a challenge. But you determine whether or not you're going to be victorious with that challenge. You determine that. And your victory doesn't mean you solved the problem. Your victory is that you didn't allow the problem to destroy you. Does that make sense? Come on.
Yes.
That's
yes.
what we were talking about yesterday in terms as being Lord of the Sabbath, right?
Yes. That is it. And yeah, in essence, that's it. Yes. You cannot allow it to destroy you. Angela? Hello?
Yes, I understand.
Okay.
I'm here. I understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you want to, one of the ways that I have overcome that challenge is when I look in the mirror, I look at my eyes. Most people don't. They look at that face. Now, if there are no more questions or comments, I'm going to put a pin in it. Take a pause, as Ron says, until tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock. And I'll pick up at that 5th verse because that from there down, that's where the meat is. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, have a great day. And we'll meet again tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
You all.
Thank you.
everybody.